I look back to the deadfall where I can still hear the little guy scrounging around. You think he needs help in there? Probably, but I just get in the way again. Don't know what half that stuff is. I take a closer look at the deadfall, wondering if this is some kind of weird forest stash hidden away out here. What is this place anyway? Oh, it's where I found you two the other day. Found us? Yeah, after you passed out in the wombwood. He managed to drag you and haul as far as he could. I could tell he was at his limit. Every answer just raises more questions. Wombwood itself is quite the name that implies all sorts of things. Like, are gnolls born there? Or is it the spirit, like, source of the woods as a fae, like, realm or something?
Mm-hmm.
Every answer just raises more questions. What the hell's a wombwood? He gestures past the pond, opposite of the way we came. The forest we're skirting around. It's all spooky in there. Spooky? Yeah, like, everyone's dead and I want to go home spooky. Alright, real spooky then. It is. We're still on the edge of it though. The real nasty critters don't wander this far out. Keeps the Imperials away though, so it's good for that at least. Frustrated cursing cuts through our little chat as Tav continues his labors. I'd better give him a hand. I turn to excuse myself from the conversation. Stinky gives me an encouraging swat on the rump before I go, offering a grin and a pair of thumbs as I yipe and turn back. You can do it. Whatever it is. I grumble a half-hearted thanks for the encouragement and turn back to resume my approach. Is this the wombwood? Huh. Inside the cave-like pocket created beneath the fallen forest vegetation, I see all manner of household goods tumbled out on the ground. Tav squats low, meticulously sorting and repacking them back into the covered wicker baskets they come from. I recognize this place from my dream, where Tav tended to me. And that's when it really sets in. It wasn't me he was doing all that for. I look down over him, biting my lip as I reevaluate that tender, vulnerable moment we shared. It wasn't earned. I stole it. Gash didn't even get to say goodbye, did he? He didn't get to hear Tav's feelings at the end. I start to feel dizzy, bracing myself against the mouth of the deadfall. Tav looks up at me with an annoyed expression that demands I explain myself. I don't know what to say. I'm such an idiot. It feels like the walls are closing in around me, like musty roots of this dreary deadfall are crushing the stale air from my very lungs.
At least make yourself useful.
His voice cuts through to me as I find myself gasping for breath, only earning another incredulous stare from the smaller Gnoll. He's still convinced I'm trying to trick him somehow. The big, scary demon just waiting for him to drop his guard. At least I can breathe again. He shakes his head and pushes one of the filled baskets over towards me. I can tell it's heavy from how much he strains to move it, but when I reach out to lift the strap, I find it effortless to heft over my shoulder. He finishes packing up another one and pushes it back for me to load up before securing the last few items in a satchel that he keeps for himself. He looks through it to verify its contents briefly, sighing in relief as he finishes. What's in there?
The most important cargo.
He keeps his explanation brief and frustratingly vague, but my gormless expression seems to pressure an answer out of him.
Ugh, letters, okay? We're the only means of communication between the Shattertusk and the Gnolls still trapped in the Empire. The mail! The most noble of pursuits. It keeps society together. This isn't a bit. I'm a radical male fundamentalist. Mail's important. The post office is the office of the highest standing. In fact, it's the most important part of the U.S. government. It has its own branch, the post branch.
The post branch.
Executive, legislative, judicial post.
I didn't like those. Okay, now I caught up eventually. Okay. It took me a moment to realize that you were listing things and not naming something. And I was like, what the fuck was that name? Such random words at me as a title. Was it like, is it an acronym? Does it like spell something? Do they try really hard to make it spell something?
No, it's the 3 branches of government and then the 4th branch that should exist but doesn't.
I mean, yeah, yes, mail is very important. It's a significant
there's
part of how...
There's nothing greater in the world than receiving a package. Period.
It's the I mean, the USPS is important. It's imagine having like a government service that does something and works and, you know, is so important that half of the economy runs off of the idea of just being able to depend on it against its own will, essentially. With like the way that like Amazon and other companies just exploit the USPS for being there to like take care of the hardest parts of its own job and then pretend that that's a service that they provide and so on. And I had to go through some very frustrating conversations with people that talk about the post office like it's a bad thing because it doesn't turn a profit, as if that's what its premise is, which is a bizarre thing to hear. I can tell my look of absentia speaks volumes to my comprehension, prompting another frustrated groan from the little Gnoll.
Look, I can't babysit you and explain the whole world to you.
Yes, you can. It's easy. What else are you doing? He reaches into his pack and fishes out that journal that he was writing in before.
Here, you can hold on to this until we get back to the village. Maybe reading that will help you understand the world of the living. You can read, can't you?
I don't know. That depends a lot on how you write. Of course I can read. He opens it up and it's just fucking, like, grid language. Like, it's just some kind of nightmare, like, circuit board across the screen. And, like, I don't even... What the fuck? This is a drawing. I don't understand. Whoa. Hello. Lore. I really hope I can read. Reading. Places. The world is a vast and varied place. The locations herein are of particular note, including both those I've encountered in my own travels and those I've heard tales about from others. I guess this would be Tav's voice if it's in first person, but whatever. The Empire. Alright, well I zeroed in on the important part. Like I guess
yes.
I guess this would be Tav, huh?
Yes, this is an in-character journal. This is actually a really cool thing. Ka put a lot of work into programming this and like figuring out how to make it function, which is neat. I think this is a really cool thing.
You want to read it?
I figured you would, but I can.
What is Tav's voice?
Sure, I guess. The Empire, the largest civilization in the known realm, organized into a theocratic regime in worship to its titular emperor. It's difficult for me to describe the Empire without bias, so I'll hold my tongue. Fuck the Empire.
I feel like he still did that.
I'm wondering if that's someone else's writing in there. If that's Gash or something.
Maybe. I don't know if I go back to places. I was trying to figure out what the navigation is. Shattered Tusk.
Shattered Tusk Village, a remote village on the far side of the Wombwood, away from Imperial Reach, built around a series of natural hot springs. I think the phenomena that heats them might be related to the creation of the basalt barrier as well.
So happy we moved here. I love everyone in this village so much. He was a big idiot.
Yeah, I think it's a different person for sure.
Yeah, it's probably me, but not me, which is upsetting in a way. Whoa. Wait. That's trippy. That's not how journals work, but sure. We generated an entry on the basalt barrier by reading the other one.
Gotcha. The basalt barrier, a tremendous range of naturally formed hexagonal basalt columns that stands between Shattered Tusk Village and the Wombwood.
You don't say.
The area is rich in sulfur, which serves as an extra deterrent to keep Imperials at bay.
Stinks real good. I can't believe there's an area with hexagonal basalt columns in this game.
The Wombwood, a tremendous forest in the center of the continent that serves as a natural gate to Broodmother's domain. Proximity to the forest causes sickness and mutation over time, but Gnoll's gift appears to render us largely immune to these effects. Because of this, many Gnoll tribes retreated into the Wombwood and took up worship of Broodmother when the Empire started the Grand Crusade.
Place still gives me the spookums.
I wonder if that's Stinky or Gash talking. I'm not sure. Interesting.
I think it's Gash because fuck the Empire. I'm so glad we moved here. I love everyone so much. Whereas Stinky would have grown up there probably, I think, if it's where the old man is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Opa. People.
There's too many people roaming the world to take note of every single one, but I've recorded a few important individuals I've encountered in my travels.
I guess important means hot. I know what you use this book for, little man. How does Tab describe that? I right-clicked a little bit.
I was orphaned in the streets of Empire City at a young age. I only have vague memories of my parents, but given their presence in the city, they were most likely captured tribesfolk sold into indentured servitude by the Imperial militia. Oh, so the Empire is pretty nasty. I admittedly did not read the journal when I beta tested this, so this is all new to me. I have no connection to my ancestral roots, and I'm not sure which tribe I came from.
Tav's a handsome little lad.
Stop calling me that in front of people, and why do you draw me without any clothes on?
Ah. It was, so Gash draws. Or at least drew this. I was like, who drew Tav? Did Tav draw himself like this? Gash. Now I finally get to write on one of these. I'm a primary source. I grew up with Tav in Empire City. No parents. Same Z's.
I think you can elaborate a little further.
Also, I got a huge cock.
Never mind, I'll handle these from now on. Opa is a really nice old Gnoll that lives on the edge of the Wombwood with his son Stinky. He used to roam the Imperial lands as a traveling healer.
Stinky says Opa can command sickness and make it do whatever he wants. He could even suck it right out of a guy. Says he keeps a sample of every disease he ever ate in his gut and fawns over them like they're his babies.
A reminder that secondhand testimonials are not sufficient evidence for this collection, especially tall tales from Stinky.
Unless...
A Gnoll living on the edge of the Wombwood with his father Opa, a terrifyingly powerful evoker, who seems to be favored by Earth Mother, even though I've never seen him show any particular devotion to her. His lack of formal training makes this unstable power quite dangerous, especially to nearby buildings. For this reason, he has to make frequent trips to the remote wilderness to vacate the built-up magic in his gate, where it won't damage anything important.
Wonder what his gate is, and where it is, and what is... Stinky's real good at playing Snapdragon. Could go pro if we had a league. Tav, we gotta start a league! There? Is it that thingy? I think it's just a harness ring.
Yeah, I think it's just a harness ring. I think the gate is like a magical thing that they open.
Yeah. Vacate the gate. Oop, Empire City is here now.
The capital city of the Empire and its seat of power from which the Emperor reigns. Gash and I grew up here, and the systemic problems that afflict the whole of the Empire are at their worst here.
Whole place sucks. Never going back. Like it's filling in non-linear. I guess that's why there's a little red. There was a red thing under places again. It's because it started off with 3 terms. Oh, we can learn about gates. There we go. Let's see.
Channels through which magic can be drawn from the domain of a god. They can appear in the world itself in places attuned with a god's domain or within people. Vokers who train hard can achieve better control and output from their gate. Without that kind of training, a Voker can end up a danger to themselves or others.
Stinky says magic is stored in the gate and keeps trying to show me his. Oh, domains.
Magic is stored in the balls.
Finally.
The outer realms in which the old gods reside after they're slain. Each is suffused with the very essence of that god's magic, and the Vokers can draw upon it, and serves god's magic that their Vokers can drawn upon. That's a typo. Screenshot that, send that to Com. Draw upon, and serves as an eternal resting place to their of their faithful.
Yeah, kind of like rambles. Like each is suffused with the very essence of that god's magic that their Vokers can draw upon. But it's like that's like something's wrong there a little bit still. So is our world the Emperor's domain? So he ain't dead yet. Gnolls, these motherfuckers.
A people of hyenid resemblance, blessed by one of the old gods with inoculation against affliction. This enables us to derive nutrition where others cannot, and combined with our stellar perspiration capabilities allows us to eke out an existence in climates otherwise inhospitable to most people. Our tribes were among the last remnants of the resistance against the Grand Crusade, but now that it has concluded, our people are scattered and broken. The Empire sees us as oafish savages only fit to integrate into their society as cheap labor.
Also, we're the pretty ones. Our stellar perspiration capabilities. I know what you are. The Grand Crusade.
The Empire's term for their quest to forcibly bring all other cultures they encounter under their rule. After their conquest of nearly all nearby tribes over the past few generations, they now turn their gaze seaward to see if they can expand beyond the continent.
Dopes on a boat.
It's interesting that Tav and Gash are able to live there and have eked out their existence. Granted, we don't know a whole lot about it, but it seems like Gnolls there are like second class, third class citizens, slaves in many cases, or at least very poorly paid labor. But it also seems, given what Tav has said, that there is some sort of open line of contact between the Empire and the various diasporas. Like people can travel there and go to and from there, at least so far. So that's kind of interesting. It's interesting to see a setting where like the crusade is not ongoing. You know what I mean by that? Like the idea that like a war has happened and is over, and now we are living in like, well, while there still might be resistances and stuff, but like the status quo has been established. which is like kind of a more interesting and complex and nuanced like geopolitical system than simply being in the war action at all times and like just opposing the evil. Like having the evil have already taken root and existed and be existent in the world is like a cool, interesting setting to set a story, especially like this in.
It's a bit like being stuck in like Andor territory, essentially. Like when you're like after the prequels, but before the original movies and Star Wars and so on. Like this, well, they won.
Yeah,
here we are, just living in this.
Very, very neat.
Tribe spawn.
The imperial term for people born to tribal factions that were forcibly integrated into the empire. I question the legitimacy of this term since one could apply this to all members of the empire over a wide enough time frame. The term is mostly used to keep us out of places or stratify our legal protections.
No tribe spawn allowed. That shit was everywhere. Oh, so it means it's literally just the concept of whiteness, like whether or not you're like well, it's the inverse of that, but I mean like it's literally like you're either you're white or your tribe spawn is how the empire
cultural
treats things.
Cultural purity and ethnic divide.
Where it's similarly a completely arbitrary sliding scale that where like the infamous, like the famous example of like once upon a time like the Irish weren't treated as white and so on like that, like because it's just like it's a socially constructed barrier between the in-group and the out-group.
I think this is interesting though in this context because instead of just being based on like, you know, the typical sort of half-hearted racial metaphor of like they have X-colored this or their fur is this or whatever, like being an obvious parallel to just simple black-white racial relations in the modern world, it's kind of interesting the idea of this ties almost more into like colonial identity and like the othering of occupied spaces, which is like kind of interesting. It's like a different sort of spin on this than you normally see than you normally see in settings that try to have a racial or at least oppression narrative of like things that are unchangeable about a person, often focusing on like physical characteristics. This is like cultural, which is neat. Like I say neat. It's a under explored thing in modern, you know, revolutionary media, so to speak.
Yeah, it's just this. It's almost like vaguely like a version of. I think back to like Mass Effect and like there's the council races, and then there's the what is it called? There's the Citadel. I think it's the Citadel races, and then the Council races, or something like that. Like it's specifically like this unnecessary and arbitrary like in-group and out-group versus like who is and isn't part of like the real space civilization, and then also who isn't in like the inner circle of that. Like there's a special tower where only
stratification
people
and stuff
happen
like
to
that,
be. Yeah. Like when you realize like the Hanar and the Alcor and the Volus and so on are just excluded. Like they're there, but they're excluded from the actual government, and so they're just fundamentally treated differently. And how that works, because like in that setting, the humans are making a move are trying to become a council race and so on, and that fundamentally changes like their position in space and whatnot. And how arbitrary those in and out groups get. Let's see. Evokers. Yeah, like an evoker.
People who are capable of channeling magic from the domain of a god using a gate within their body. Most evokers achieve the power through lifelong prayer and devotion to their god, but some exceptionally rare individuals are just born blessed by the god and awaken a gate naturally.
Lucky fuckers, I want to evoke stuff. There's gods. We're gonna learn the gods now.
Immortal beings of immense power, each associated with a particular domain. Some legends suggest that the ascension of a god brings their domain to the world, but I have a hard time wrapping my head around this. Could the world have existed without water before the Tide Lord's rise, or without sunlight before the Dawnbringer? Emperor Sure would have you believe the law and civilization did not exist before his rule.
It's probably way happier before then. The Brood Mother.
Goddess of life and birth, often argued to be the first of the divine as no others could follow if not born by her. She's rarely worshipped in the Empire, where she's viewed as a base and savage force of nature. While many of her faithful in rural areas serve as midwives or beastminders, others are abhorred for exploiting the darker aspects of her domain, like the brood witches of the Wombwood.
Oh. Oh god, it's growing. The Ascension. We're getting nested topics here.
The process by which a god is born, according to legend, only one god can reign over the realm at a time. A new god rises by killing the previous one. Dead gods are thereafter banished to their domains, from which their influence on the world is greatly diminished.
This really is a whole setting. Brood witches.
A coven of brood mother devotees that have taken up residence in the Wombwood following the Grand Crusade. Their number mostly consists of gnolls that are largely immune to the deleterious effects of the Wombwood, but there are some other peoples mixed in as well. Their particular dogma ties virtue to something's capacity to spawn new life, but they do not distinguish between people and lower life forms in this value system. They even consider disease itself to be a form of life for its capacity to spread. Many local legends surround the strange and unnatural rituals they concoct in the depths of the Wombwood, including aberrant augmentations of living creatures and ritual sacrifice to Broodmother.
Let's just forget about them, please. They've had a brush with them and a bad interaction, clearly. They are familiar. Dawnbringer.
Creator of light and flame, whose domain is now visible in the sky above as the sun. She often saw worship as a bringer of cleansing flame to scour evil from the land, but like many faiths, her followers have been steadily converting to worship of the Emperor in recent generations. Her domain grows stronger in the summer months, empowering her vokers. This enrichment reaches its apex at the summer solstice, when festivals are typically held in celebration of her.
Back in the Empire, the other workers would beg her to turn down the sun whenever morning came. Just like a volume slider. Be a lot harder to ignore all the god beliefs when they start throwing fireballs at you based on those powers. Earth Mother.
She's the creator of the earth beneath us and the plants who sprout from it, whose domain is in the bowels of the land itself. Many farmers throughout the Empire continue to pray to her to this day, even if she's rarely anyone's primary deity. Spelled wrong.
Sending a screenshot.
Yes. Sorry, hold on. Worship of the Earth Mother used to be very prominent amongst previous generations of tribesfolk as well. But the Grand Crusade quickly wiped out or absorbed most of the more peaceful tribes who favored her.
You think Earth Mother and Brood Mother are friends? The Emperor.
The current reigning god of the realm, his rule has lasted several mortal generations, and it's difficult to find historical records from before his ascension. His domain is that of law and order, supposedly giving rise to civilization itself, as well as the very idea of law.
Can't wait for the next ascension. Rise to the civilization itself. Well, thanks, buddy. You created an in and out. That's always... So he's to blame for everything, basically. It's a trip to have the ruling emperor that exists right now listed in the tab with the gods. Like, oh, this one created the very
god
concept
emperor,
of fire and so on.
It's very Warhammer.
Yeah. Let's go kill him.
The divine mandate, the mandate of heaven.
Tide Lord.
The god of the abyssal depths of the seas, holding domain over all bodies of water and aquatic beasts. He often sees worship in many coastal fishing villages who pray to him to ensure calm weather for travel in bountiful halls.
I used to work with a shark fellow that prayed the Tide Lord would come and drown the Empire. Still waiting. There's sharks. That's what caught my eye the most. Like, there's shark people.
Shark man, bite me, please.
We've established
Thank
at least
you.
one additional type of anthro character, just like that.
Thank you, Ka, for putting Big Shark Man in game for Toaster.
as a
Thank you,
personal
Ka.
gift. Thank you for
It's a
my
personal gift to
my-
me. There's going to be Big Lizard Man and Big Shark Man, and they're both going to love me specifically.
Yes, thank you for my personal birthday gift. I will give you a thank you kiss at Las Vegas. See you later. Really hope I can read as I just read the entire thing in 1 second. I wasn't sure how to pace it. I was like, I could come and go, but also like I have no idea how this will play out. Part of me always wants to reflexively like. Then people just get mad if I do that. I'll like in a Talos Principle 1, I saw the terminals and their mountains of text and was like, I'll read more of this later. But then like the tide of new entries only grows, like, and you never catch up unless you just actually start binging it. So you just have to go. Just go. I hope I can read. Once we've got everything loaded up, we head back toward Opa's hut with Stinky in tow. I briefly wonder why Stinky isn't helping carry anything, but surprisingly the cargo isn't much of a burden at all for me. This body really is burly. Having Stinky along for the walk really does liven the mood, keeping the atmosphere light with casual banter and mercifully actually answering my questions. He's kind of a lot at first, but I find that he's starting to grow on me now that I'm used to the smell. From the way he tells it, this wombwood is a country-sized blight on the land that otherwise unflappable Imperials won't touch with a 10-mile pole. It takes months to circumnavigate safely, and pretty much all that's on the far side past here is dust and desert, so they have no reason to bother with it. But they can take their empire and shove it Undertale. You played that before? He makes a crude gesture to demonstrate the analogy. Surprisingly, even Tav's mood is improved enough for a bit of sarcasm.
Careful, they say the Emperor hears all. Can you click on that?
Is this
that a link?
clickable? It is a clickable.
Sure is.
That's how that works. We've learned things. And it's just introduced smoothly.
Maybe we should not read the journal and then only click the links when they pop up, so they make sense in the text.
Or maybe that'll be a constant stop and go. I don't know if they'll bring up every topic. I don't know.
We'll see.
You get handed a book, you read the whole thing. That's just what happens.
I agree. I wasn't saying we did a bad job. I'm saying maybe we have a good base to work off of now.
I just think
Toaster doesn't need to read 7 pages of prose before we move on with the story.
No, that's fine. Now everyone knows everything.
Gotcha. They'll remember all of it. Especially me. I'll remember every detail.
It's revisitable, but also it's just the lore tax. That is a bit of a struggle, is that like there are games that just give you a big book and you are meant to read it all, but also you're meant to like realistically revisit it and like remind yourself of things and be able to like check it. But when you're doing a let's play, you're like, you don't want to constantly stop and reread an entire entry aloud. So you're like, do I do an edit thing here, or do I do like, so you might be less inclined to do that. But like, as somebody who played every Myst game, that's just how every game in that series works. They're just like, here's a giant journal with like 20 pages to go through. You're actually supposed to read it now, and also maybe reread it twice while you're playing the game, and it'll make more sense over time. But it's also literally going to give you your only objective, stuff like that. Pfft. If he's so almighty, let him strike me down. As if the forest itself has an ear for comedic timing, the Gnoll managed to step on and loudly snap a twig beneath him just after his proclamation. This causes a decidedly undignified yelp to escape him as he's startled into a nearby bush. Tav can't help but laugh at the buffoonish display, and I'm inclined to join him, feeling relieved to see him at least a little less grim now. A pair of brown-socked paws emerge from the bush, pumping upward victoriously. Still alive! Suck it, Emperor! Also 7 pages of prose. I'm narrating, Toaster. The whole
Whatever.
time. In every game.
Can you believe this is Keith's job and he complains about it? Hit him up on every social media he has to tell him to be quiet.
Stop bullying me, I'm sick.
Tee-hee-hee-hee-hee-hee.
We reconvene back at Opa's place, rousing him from a nap I don't think he intended to take. Mercifully, he's actually dressed this time. Stinky tends to him while Tav inspects the cargo briefly to make sure I didn't break anything. As Tav starts to take stock of our inventory, I get a bit distracted from the inspection when my ears tune me into the other Gnoll's conversation in progress. We get to go with them? Really? Stinky's tail is practically wagging like a pup's. Opa chuckles softly and does his best to settle the boy.
Aye, lad. Your gate's nice and empty, right?
Yep, every last drop. So I should be good for a few days at least. And we can see him this time, right? I realize my ears have been physically swiveled around to listen to their conversation, which is probably pretty noticeable and pretty rude. So I shake my head and try to refocus on Tav instead. The smaller Gnoll shields his eye as he looks skyward.
Should be enough daylight left to make it there before dark if we hustle. Hopefully I won't slow you down too much.
If you get tired, I can always piggyback you. I've half a mind to offer the same, but I realize that'd be a bit awkward with me already handling the cargo.
There's still enough life in these old bones of mine to make it to the village.
They're off! Oh god, they are hustling. Our journey is pretty quiet for the most part, with only occasional color commentary from Stinky to punctuate the sounds of nature as he gets distracted by something or other to scavenge and munch on. Plus a few pee breaks. A lot of them, actually. Toaster's
Wonder what
here.
happens if you put the name Toaster in.
Like it pays off here. You think there's a
I
pee,
won.
You think you have a personal pee joke at your expense for peeing too much in the peeing tangent. Stinky insists that the highest mark on a tree means you own it. I concede all ownership claims. As we get further from the lush vegetation of the forest outskirts, I can't help but ask what's on my mind. Why is the village so far from the forest? It looks pretty dead out here.
The further from the Empire, the better. And while there isn't much game, we honestly don't need much to survive. Where there's resources, there's competition.
I guess that makes sense, but it still feels weird being so disconnected from the rest of the world. Oh, tell him about the canyon.
We're almost there. He can see it for himself.
And indeed, peering forward, I'm able to spot what they're referring to. Ahead, the hills drive up into a sharp rise that wraps as far as the eye can see in either direction. You'd be hard-pressed to mount it, even with proper climbing gear. But dead ahead of us, a gloomy crevice splits the pass into a slender canyon. It'd be pretty hard to find if you didn't have someone to guide you to it. Only way to get to the village, unless you go through the flats on the other side. I can't believe there's basalt columns in this game. As we get closer, my nose gives me indication of what's so special about the place. There's an acrid well, Malodorous?
Malodorous.
Malodorous. That makes sense. Bad smellingness. Right. Got it. Did not parse that at first glance. There's an acrid, malodorous aroma. I've never encountered this word or had to say it out loud before. Like rotten eggs and salt that seems to seep from the canyon itself. I hear Stinky take a deep breath, sighing and letting his tongue hang out. Sighing out, if you will, as he samples the scent. Ugh. Brimstone.
It's the basalt barrier, our last line of defense against the Imperials. The fumes make them sick.
Because it's got horrible... Was it sulfur? Yep.
I think we already read this
Gross
one.
ache smells. Yep. Oh, we definitely read it already because I was all fixated. I'm like, a basalt columnary in the hyena game. Based on what I'm smelling, I can relate. I don't feel like I'm gonna retch or anything, though. Might be that gift Tav mentioned. Opa smiles and pats my tummy.
But gnolls are made of sterner stuff, huh?
I try and offer him a smile and thanks for his reassurance, but my heart isn't in it. Even though the canyon walls are wide enough apart to pass through easily, somehow they still feel too close for comfort. The strange hexagonal columns that make up the canyon catch my eye. They jut up sharply to form the canyon walls on either side. They must be some sort of bizarre natural formation, providing uneven steps for us to tread across. For some reason, I just can't shake the feeling that those walls are going to collapse in around me at any moment. This happens to him a lot, doesn't it? He's just periodically having a anxiety attack expressed via the world distorting like a mirage. I try to focus on just moving forward, ignoring the unease rising in my chest. I ignore the tremor in my legs that make it difficult to walk. I ignore my ragged, ill-paced breathing, which only further overwhelms me with that sulfurous stench. Tav looks over his shoulder and notices me falling behind. He moves to tap at the leash wound around his wrist to encourage me to catch up. But he stops when he catches sight of my face. I don't know what he sees there, but it's enough. He backtracks a bit and places his paw on my shoulders, settling my breathing.
Come on, Escher, we're burning daylight.
It's not exactly the most gentle guidance he could offer, but it's the first time he's called me by my name. Even that little nudge helps me push through. He takes me by the paw, more gently than I expect. He gives it a soft squeeze, and I squeeze back. I can't see his face as he walks on ahead, but I hope he's not too upset with me. I wish I wasn't such a burden. Here I am, the person he hates most in the world, the one who took Gash away from him, helpless as a babe and dragging down everyone around me. I just want to get this over with. As we break through to the other side of the canyon and the noxious reek of brimstone begins to abate, I see the trio I'm traveling with bathed in the twilight hues of the golden hour. Stinky bounces from foot to foot as he eagerly points out the village outskirts in the distance. Opa chuckles and reminisces about soup. But Tav still has that distant look.
Soup.
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 Soup. I forgot what the hide button is. Damn it.
Spacebar?
Spacebars continue.
Okay, well, whatever. Right click.
Right click is menu.
F. No, that's full screen. 8.
Ren P hide. If you're confused, chat, it's my controller died, and so now I can't just press the normal button, which is Y on my controller, and I don't know how to hide the text box to look at it. Hide text box. Why is it so hard to look this up? How? What? Okay, I think it's H. Let's see. There we go. I did it. Graceful.
And Gash's got cheeks.
That was harder to Google than I thought.
Can't really see them, but those are some cheeks.
Man, I cannot. I need to figure out how to draw digital grade. It's wild, but this is like a really specific, like, stylized, like, really heavy characters that really, like, lean in a particular way, and like, those legs get, like, a whole... There's a lot to unpack about how those legs are shaped and work and so on. They're neat. They're neat characters. Those feet, like, go up to his ass. On Gash's case. You also just know that, like... He's just flaunting back sack everywhere he goes. Like, there's no coverage at all.
Yeah, no. You can see he's walking. You see hole. You see full hole.
You see so much. There's the hyena settlement, off in the middle of almost nowhere. Look at. That is just the expression that Ka's character would always have in every narrative and setting on the far left. This is, yep. There we go. The village up ahead. That's where we'll end things. Part of me wants to stay here with them. But that's just selfish of me, isn't it? Such an idiot. The others start making their way down to the village proper, the day's journey finally at an end. I'm not ready for this to end. Oh! There's chapter 1, we did it. It's over.
It's done.
I wasn't quite ready for it to end exactly there. That was a cool CG though.
It
Forgot about
was.
the music. Alright, well that's the end of chapter 1. We'll see you guys when probably when the art assets come in and they blah 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 release schedules for the next 6 chapters. I don't know what rate they'll come out at. But you can check out their Patreon to support the project and see things going forward. Thanks for watching, everybody.